Wow, I'm going to try to keep it very brief. I first want to say thank you to Cynthia for putting on this event. It's really important that we support the Patriot Freedom Project. There is no other organization out there who is helping people who've been victimized by the federal government, and the Whitmer guys are a great example of that. Really, I think what happened there was the dry run for January 6th. And I could spend 10 hours going into the details of how atrocious and outrageous what happened to these men was. But just to keep it brief, if you're not familiar with this case, the FBI spent a year befriending these men, bringing people together who never would have met each other without the intervention of the FBI. They used a network of 12 informants and 2 undercovers to do this. And they spent a year getting close to these people. They took a prepping group and turned it into a militia. One of their informants became the executive officer of this fake militia group. He was basically the de facto leader, and he started training these guys, putting on militia meetings. The FBI at the same time created a fake national militia group called the United States Patriot 3%ers. And they put on field training exercises where they brought people together. Again, they supplied them with copious amounts of marijuana and alcohol and filmed them engaging in the training that the FBI was giving them and just recorded them saying offensive things. And basically, they arrested these men 1 month before the 2020 election. This was used by the Biden-Harris campaign to smear President Trump and say that these men were like ISIS, that they were radicalized by Trump because he tweeted out, "Liberate Michigan." And you have to remember what was happening at the time in 2020. We had these insane COVID lockdowns. Whitmer's lockdowns were the strictest. These men couldn't work. They had nothing else to do all day except talk crap and train. There were also riots happening after George Floyd in May. So they were seeing their country basically being torn apart. They were seeing their cities being burned and destroyed. And these were the men who wanted to do something about it. They were the guys who, if this was happening in your community, they would show up to protect you. They could be your neighbor, their fathers, husbands. And so essentially, they were completely framed. The evidence against them was we filmed them doing things at events that the FBI put on, and then they were limited in how they could represent themselves. It resulted in 4 trials, 2 federal trials, and 2 state trials. So what ended up happening basically is that half of these men were acquitted, but half of them were wrongly convicted. So right now we have 3 men in prison in Michigan, and we have 2 men sitting in solitary confinement at Florence Supermax, where people like El Chapo are. These are men who didn't engage in any violence at all, didn't really commit a crime. They just happened to befriend the wrong people and trust the wrong people, and it's very sad. And no other organization has stepped up to help them. I know Cynthia says I'm sort of like the Cynthia for the Whitmer guys, but Patriot Freedom Project has been the only organization who's ever reached out to me to try to help these men, to try to help get justice for them. And so I just want to reiterate how important it is that we support people like Cynthia, the men on this panel, the Patriot Freedom Project, and now Weaponization Watch.